And this is where I really take issue with Robyn and the role she has chosen to play in this family dynamic. No, these children are not Robyn's biologically, and that point cannot be ignored. But the question that keeps circling back is if Robyn wanted to be part of a plural marriage and wanted to share in the responsibilities of that choice, then why does her behavior so often seem to contradict the entire foundation of plural family life? Over and over again on the show, Robyn portrays herself as the good sister wife. She repeats the narrative that she was always willing to help, that she loved the children, that she would do anything for them, and that she valued the concept of raising children together. Yet, when push came to shove, when moments arrived where her actions could have matched her words, she was absent. She was in town. She had the ability to step in and assist, yet she chose not to. Instead, she leaned on excuses, such as having minor children of her own, even though at the time most of her children were already adults or close to adulthood. The truth is the only two minor children she had at that particular period were still old enough to require less intense supervision. The rest were either grown or independent teenagers. They were at an age where they did not demand round-the-clock attention, or the type of endless care a toddler would require. So the claim that she was simply too busy raising her own children to help does not hold water. It feels like an excuse to avoid sharing responsibility, a shield to deflect any obligation to the rest of the family. This becomes clearer when you look at the situation when Mykelti had to travel from Utah just to help take care of her siblings. Meanwhile, Robyn was living in town, perfectly capable of helping, yet she did not volunteer. She did not step, and she was okay with letting a daughter take on a role that should have been handled by adults. This becomes even more frustrating when you consider that Truly was still very young. At the time, Truly would have been about 8 or 9 years old, a child at an age that still requires guidance, structure, and consistency. And yet Robyn was not there. It raises the uncomfortable but necessary question: where was Kody during this time? The answer is simple. He was at Robyn's house. Robyn's home was a place he chose to stay. The irony is sharp, because it was never really Robyn's house alone. It was supposed to be part of the shared family life, yet Kody essentially abandoned his other wives and children, choosing instead to plant himself permanently in one household. This choice revealed the favoritism in a way that could no longer be hidden. And this is why Kody himself refers to the children, Christine and Janelle, as their kids, not as he sees them, as separate, not as his own flesh and blood. This speaks volumes about his lack of emotional connection. He does not know them in any real way. He has not built bond with them. He does not understand their personalities, their struggles, or their needs for him. They are simply biological products of his decisions. Nothing more. The image painted is harsh, but real Kody fathered them biologically, but never stepped into the role of dad. It is disturbing to think of how he viewed his responsibility. All they were in his eyes were beings created through his actions, as though planting a seed, and walking away was enough. Once the children were born, the burden fell entirely on the mothers, while Kody behaved as though his presence was optional, as though he was some divine figure exempt from day-to-day parenting. His behavior reflected the mindset of a man who believed himself untouchable, the self-declared god of the family. This mindset extended far beyond parenting into the way he managed the households. When the family lived in Las Vegas, the building of the homes revealed the favoritism in stark financial terms, according to discussions that later came out. The nicest homes were Mary's and Robyn's. These were not coincidences. Mary was a legal wife, and Robyn was a favorite. Together, they were elevated above the rest. Their houses were larger, better designed, and carried higher resale value. Kody made sure of it. He poured more energy, resources, and attention into those homes than he ever did for Christine or Janelle. When it came time for closing, Kody insisted that Robyn close first. His excuse was that Robyn had Solomon, an infant at the time. He ignored the fact that Christine had Truly, who was also very young, about a year and a half old. But in Kody's mind, Robyn's needs always outweighed the others, and by manipulating the closing process, he ensured Robyn could move into her home first. That decision set a tone. The message was clear: Robyn and Mary mattered more. Everyone else was secondary. Once Robyn was settled, Kody essentially moved in full-time with her, yet on camera he pretended. He kept up the appearance of balance, telling the audience he saw all his wives regularly. In reality, his presence in the other homes was minimal and disconnected. When he did stop by Christina's house, he would greet the kids for only a few minutes before retreating upstairs to sit on his phone. He did not engage, he did not play, he did not listen. His presence was physical, but not emotional. The children felt the absence of father who was supposed to guide them, but never did. This is why Christine spoke so openly about her children having daddy issues. It was not exaggeration. It was fact. They did not have a dad. They had a man who was biologically tied to them, but who refused to be emotionally present. A man who abandoned his role and left his wives to fill in the gaps. The pattern was consistent across households. There was no real investment, no genuine care. Now some argue perhaps he was a better father to Robyn's children, but even that rings hollow at his core. Kody is selfish. His relationship with Robyn did not transform him into a nurturing, attentive dad. It simply gave him an excuse to centralize his life around one wife. While neglecting the others even with Robyn, he likely expected her to carry the majority of parental duties. Reports indicate that he got her a nanny not because she was overwhelmed, but because he wanted uninterrupted time with her. He wanted Robyn free for him, not tied up with childcare. So rather than leaning on sister wives for help, he outsourced responsibility to a nanny. The double standard is glaring when Christine needed help. She was told to rely on her older children. Her children were denied the right to simply be kids. They were forced into roles of caregivers because Christine could not rely on the father of her children. Yet, when Robyn's children reached the same ages, they were not expected to help. Instead, a nanny was hired. The excuse was always different. When it came to Robyn, she was always treated as the exception. This exposes Robyn as selfish. She repeatedly portrayed herself as invested in the family unit. Yet, when her turn came, she did not contribute. She did not step in. She did not help raise the other's children. Mykelti confirmed this outright. Robyn never tried to help, never made the effort, never cared. Her excuse was consistently that she had little kids. But that excuse does not stand up, because when all the wives of the little kids, they shared the responsibility. That was a principle of plural marriage. They raised their kids together. Robyn, however, never fully wanted that life. She wanted the title and the man, but not the sacrifice. The entire system crumbled under Kody's laziness and Robyn's willingness to enable it. Kody avoided responsibility at every turn. He chose favoritism over fairness. He allowed division instead of unity, and Robyn, rather than bridging the gap, reinforced that she benefited from the favoritism. She accepted the larger house, the earlier closing the nanny. She lived a life of priority, while Christine and Janelle struggled. This dynamic has long-term consequences. Children grow up noticing who was valued and who was not. They see the favoritism and internalize it. They carry the wounds of absent fathers and indifferent stepmothers. Christine was left to explain to her children why their dad was never around. Janelle, too, faced the reality of raising kids largely alone. And meanwhile, Robyn shielded herself from blame, insisting she was a good sister, wife, despite all evidence to the contrary. When you step back, the pattern is undeniable. Kody used religion and the idea of family as a mask to cover selfishness. His behavior contradicted the very values he preached about: unity, love, and equal partnership. Robyn supported him in this imbalance because it benefited her directly. The houses, the nanny, the attention, it all flowed her way. She had no incentive to challenge him. And so the dysfunction deepened in the broader sense. This story reflects what happens when plural marriage is twisted from its original claims of unity into a system of favoritism and power. It shows how words mean nothing when actions fail to match. Robyn said she was devoted, but her actions told another story. Kody said he was a father, but his behavior showed neglect, and the children, the very heart of the family, paid the price. Looking at it now, it becomes clear why Christine left. She could not allow her children to keep suffering under a father who did not see them as his own. She could not keep defending a man who chose his phone and his favorite wife over his children. Leaving was an act of self-preservation and an act of love for her kids. She refused to let them keep growing in a home where they were invisible. Janelle, too, recognized the imbalance, though quieter in her choices. She also stepped away, realizing that Kody was never going to change. His selfishness was not a temporary flaw. It was who he was. The longer she stayed, the more it eroded her own independence. Meanwhile, Robyn continues to insist she never asked for favoritism. She presents herself as a victim of circumstance, yet every action suggests she embraced the advantages Kody gave her without hesitation. If she truly cared about the family as a whole, she would have pushed back. She would have insisted on fairness. She would have shared responsibility. She did none of those things. In the end, the family story is not one of shared love and unity, but a division, favoritism, and neglect. And at the center stands Kody with his arrogance and Robyn with her complicity. Together, they reshaped a plural marriage into a hierarchy, with Robyn at the top and everyone else beneath. That is not what plural family life was supposed to be. And so we circle back to children who deserved a father but got a distant figure, children who deserved a sister wife who cared but got a woman who withheld help, children who watched their family fracture not because of outside forces but because of selfishness within. That is a tragedy here, not only the collapse of marriages but the emotional cost on the kids who did not choose any of this. They grew up under a father who did not know them and a family structure that claimed unity while practicing division. So what are your thoughts? Do you see Robyn as selfish? Do you believe Kody ever truly cared for his children outside of Robyn's household? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you have not already, and hit the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching.